Hi, investigators. Mike Evans getting it wrong there. In Australian Private Investigator, Corporate Investigator and Government Investigator Weekly News, episode 40 of 2020. It's our last broadcast for the year. We've got some information this week that's still useful. So we started 40 weeks ago. We didn't know what would happen. We didn't think anybody would watch. And we've got an audience of some 7,000 people out there now that at some stage during the week watch me get it wrong and press the wrong buttons here on this program. We're the investigators who like to take statements, like to write reports, and how interesting is that for a career? It's fantastic, and it's paid off for Marie. Now, Marie listened to our program last week, and she saw the opportunity come up in our program last week to win something. Wonder what it's going to be. If Marie gets it right, she's going to win her own private investigator coffee mug. Let's see what she said. All she had to do is scrolling on the bottom of your screen right now. Here's Marie with her question.
Hi, Mike. My name's Marie. I was just wondering if you could explain to me why the ACT doesn't require you to have any type of qualifications to undertake PI duties, where all the other jurisdictions we've got to have our Cert 3 in government investigations. I was just wondering why we don't need to have it for ACT. Thank you.
What a great question. So, what's the answer to Marie's question? I have been a licensed private investigator for 26 years. During that 26 years, Canberra has never had licenses for private investigators in the ACT. So in the ACT, you do not need at all, in any way, shape or form, if you want to be a private investigator, you don't need a license there. You just take out an ad in the Yellow Pages and says, I'm Marie, I'm an investigator. Now, no client on planet Earth in Australia will engage you or employ you if you haven't got a license. It won't happen, because their guarantee to all their clients is that they will only engage licensed private investigators. So regardless of the rule in the ACT that you do not have to be a licensed private investigator to conduct investigations, the people you are going to work for require you to have that license. Now, it might be a license in New South Wales, or it might be a license in Victoria. They don't really care, but as long as you're licensed, because if you are licensed, it meets their clients' requirements in their service level agreement that says we will only employ licensed, qualified and trained private investigators. Now, the issue is the scenario of, should, let's say, Marie have to do an investigation in which a bikie has been riding down the street in Belconnen in the ACT, and a little white dog's run in front of him, and the bikie is a dog lover, so he turns over his Harley and stacks it on the ground, and instantaneously that's $40,000 worth of damage to that motorbike. Now, the person liable for that damage is the owner of the dog. The bikie will then sue the owner of the dog under their home and contents insurance for the damage to his motorbike. Now, that's okay, he's allowed to do that. Let's hope the owners have home and contents insurance, because it's their dog. It was let out the gate by accident, I don't know, by the cleaner or postman or whatever, and it's run in front of that motorbike and caused $40,000 damage. Now, that's okay. Marie contacts the bikie and he says, oh, look, that's great, you can come around and see me, but I've since moved. I don't live in Belconnen anymore. I live in southern New South Wales now. So Marie has to cross the border out of the ACT into New South Wales to interview that bikie about the accident. That's a genuine accident. He has the right to that compensation, but in New South Wales, she has to be licensed. So Marie is protected by the fact that her employer, who has that contract to do that investigation work on behalf of that general insurance insurer, has that license. So that's why they want you to have it. You don't know where you might end up. You could end up in Victoria. You could end up somewhere else, but as long as you're licensed, That's okay. We'll worry about the jurisdictional issues of that later on. But in Canberra, very small area by square kilometrage, so you will be going outside the border. So you will need to anticipate having that licence. In fact, every professional investigator I've ever met out of that state, out of that territory, has had an investigation licence. So well done, Marie. You've won your coffee mug for that really great question. And it's on the way to you this week. So that'll come in the mail next week. Nice start to your new year. And it looks just like this. And I've got another 15 of them. If people want to send me a question on their phone. Now, here's a question I got this afternoon. Now, the lady didn't send it in by her phone with a video. So she doesn't actually get a coffee mug. Gets a question answered. So she says, hi, I completed my Cert 3 a while ago. I think you're on holidays, but I'm going to ask anyway. Chasing any legal information on pretext calls when you get a minute. Now, in our course, we cover pretext calls quite extensively because in surveillance, people will end up doing pretext calls at some stage for some kinds of surveillance. Now, you're not allowed to do those with certain types of surveillance, and you discuss that with your employer when you go there. But the pretext approach is simply using a suitable cover story or a fictitious excuse to engage the occupant in conversation about something from them. So it's legal as long as you don't purport to be a lawyer or a police officer or a cosmetic surgeon or a doctor. You can just engage someone in conversation and say, look, you know, I'm just doing deliveries in the area. Can you tell me, is this number 12? That's all you're saying, right? Now, there are some brilliant pretext approaches. I'm not going to broadcast those in this program, but there's one, you've got to be able to say convincingly who you are and what you're doing. And I was listening to the radio in Hobart a long time ago, and there was a young new DJ in the morning program there, and he was doing those stupid phone calls where they ring up and pretend to be someone. And some people had dobbed their friend in, and the friend was a bit of a character. And she was quite out there sort of person. And what had happened was that someone driving past in the middle of the night had thrown on top of her roof a vibrator, and it landed on top of her roof. Now, her and her husband heard this sound on the roof, and then the next day they went up and looked up there, and there's this vibrator on the roof. Now, her friends had dobbed her in, and this DJ rang her up to engage her in what was supposed to be a humorous conversation about it. And it was quite funny in relation to, she was just such a character, and she was just overreacting to everything he said. But when he called her and when he introduced himself to her, he had to be really convincing. Now, how are you going to be convincing in that kind of circumstance? She doesn't know she's on the radio. She doesn't know there's 5,000 people listening to this on the radio in Hobart, and he wants her talking so he can get his ratings up or whatever. And this is what he said. Oh, g'day, I'm Dave Noonan, because that was his name. I'm from Community Liaison. I'd like to talk to you about the thing that was thrown on top of your roof. And of course, the lady exploded laughing, and she was character and blah, blah, blah. And the conversation went on hilariously, so to speak, for 5 minutes. Now, if you look, it's a very hard subject to engage someone in conversation on. And he said community liaison. She bought it, but she was more excited about getting her version of events out. She wouldn't know that. She wouldn't remember that. She wouldn't have even considered that. And it was beautifully done. So, you know, if you're trying to think about pretext approaches that you can do, look at how other people do them successfully. Okay, a lot of people won't listen to commercial radio. I understand that. Look how actors sell themselves on the stage. Watch some of the movies and some of the moments that they use them in movies. You can get ideas from there. So, great question. Unfortunately, the person that sent in that question, they don't get coffee mugs and record it. So, look, please record it like it says on the bottom of the screen. When I switch that off in a second, you can replay this to see what my phone number is, record your question and send it in to me, and I will answer that question here, and you'll get a coffee mug. Okay, so that's very, very important. Better switch that off to drive you nuts. So what's happened this week in private investigations? Well, our old friend Warwick Capper and movie star Pamela Anderson have topped the complaints to the AMCA in Australia about commercials on television. And this is the third year in a row, I think. So they've got a three-peat. So it's the UltraTune commercial, and basically it was filmed on the Gold Coast this year, and it topped the complaints to the AMCA. Now, the AMCA, the Australian Media Communications Authority, they have investigators who hold certificate for in government investigations, and they go and interview people and take statements from them about the complaints. And there were 315 complaints about that advertisement this year. So that's something that you will be doing as a licensed investigator or corporate investigator or government investigator who has a certificate for in government investigation. You'll be investigating those complaints from members of the public in relation to those sorts of things. We played the whole commercial earlier this year. It's got Warwick Capper on it. If you are offended by Warwick Capper, look away now. So that's the commercial they're complaining about. 315 complaints. I think they had a few more than that last year, but 3 years in a row, that's what's happened with the Australian Media Communications Authority. So when you get a job there with your certificate for in government investigations, you'll be looking at commercials that are on television, commercials in newspapers or on websites, that sort of thing. And you'll be seeing people who complain about that, and you'll go and interview them about their complaint. So at this time of year, some other things that have come up. WorkSafe Victoria had a prosecution only recently. They've had a demolition company fined $20,000 for incorrect disposal of asbestos. Now, again, this is people who hold the certificate for in government investigation or the diploma of government investigation. They're going to be investigating these things. Now, today, when they investigate that, they'll go out to the worksite, pay it a visit, they'll monitor trucks coming and going, they'll record their registration numbers, they will follow those trucks, they'll go and they'll follow them, they'll launch drones when they're dumping it. Those drones will measure the square meterage of what's dumped. Those drones will land on top of the dump and even take a sample of it. So this is what they're doing out there in government investigations today. So a big win there for WorkSafe. Now, WorkSafe in Victoria have also hit the headlines because CGU has stopped being one of their suppliers. So basically, CGU have pulled out of the WorkSafe system down there for the contract to manage manage injuries down there. So CGU have pulled out. They could have had a 2-year extension, but they're not going ahead with that. WorkSafe has only recently, in the last financial year, had a $3.5 billion loss, and they're blaming it on the pandemic and a rise in mental health workplace injury claims. So what does that mean for you, the private investigator? It means more than ever, and it's been trending now for the last 8 years, is the investigations you're going to do are not physical injury, broken arm, bad back, that sort of thing. They're going to be stress or psychological injury. So the person cannot return to the workplace because they've been bullied, harassed, they've got PTSD or whatever it is. So there it is. They're blaming their $3.5 billion loss on the pandemic and the number of mental health claims that have gone up as a result of that. Now, none of them have said we're being paid too much, and there's people here working for us in various roles who are getting paid too much money, and it's ineffective and doing nothing for the injured people out there. They're not saying that. But that's where most of their money's gone. It's not in mental health claims. So, that's just what you're sold. In Victoria, I wouldn't believe a word of what I've been told down there at the moment. So that was reported in The Age. You can see that in The Age if you want to look it up. Tow truck driver down in Tassie has been accused of stealing 15 cars left by the roadside and taking them to a wreckers and having them crushed for cash. Now, this has come out in the Mercury newspaper down there, and there's a big issue here for you, the civil investigator. Now, the way they look at it from a criminal point of view is who owns those cars? A lot of them were burnt out wrecks that had been there for a long time. Now, were they abandoned, or did the owner intend to go back there, pick it up themselves, put it on a trailer, take it back home and restore it? This person's assumed that they weren't, and he's taken 15 of them to the wreckers. Now, he's been taken to court over that, and basically what they're going to charge him with is stealing by finding. Now, there was a recent case of this down in Tasmania only a couple of years ago, and it was a lady who was walking down the street. Hang on, here we go. She was walking down the street and she saw in front of her a telephone card, and it belonged to the electricity supplier in Tasmania. Now, that telephone card was basically unlimited use of a phone. It's like a get out of jail free card. And she started using it, and she ran up a $30,000 telephone bill on it, and it wasn't her card. She found it on the ground. She was taken to court. She was charged by the police with stealing by finding. So what's this issue with this? If you find something, what you've got to do is you've got to go and hand it into the police. The police will take a record of what you've found. And if no one claims it in 30 days or whatever the period is, then you have the right to keep it. So that tow truck driver, that lady with the card, that's what they are basically facing. And it is a criminal matter. So keep that in mind. If you find 20 cents on the ground and you keep it, you could be charged with stealing by finding. It's something of value, so keep that in mind. So what is happening this week, and is it too late in the year to find a new job?
Just gotta let it go. I often sit and wish that I could just change my past. To think about you, Dad, there's so much shit that I could ask. Like, why am I still haunted by the day that you left?
Lots of jobs going at the moment. There's a dispute resolution officer for the telecommunications industry ombudsman going. And you can see these jobs, they're all on my Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigators Facebook page. If you join that page, you'll see jobs go up there every week, and they are current jobs that you can apply for. They're from all around the country, from multiple industries. I only put 35% of jobs up because I'm too busy to put them all up. But that's where you go to see these jobs, the Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigator jobs Facebook page. So certainly have a look at it. So that first job is a dispute resolution officer. So as investigators who hold Certificate 4 in Government Investigation, for example, as would be with this one with the government position, you're going to look at disputes, contracts, promises, that sort of thing between consumers and retailers or whatever in relation to telecommunications, phone contracts. Were they misleading? Were they told this? Can you bring out the recording of the sale? You know, that recording every time you buy a new phone that goes on for an hour and a half after you've stupidly said yes and you're just about to lose an hour and a half of your time. So that's a job role that's come up this week. That's a beauty. That'd be a great one. There's a regulatory compliance officer job role. Now, we've had this up for a couple of weeks now. This would be for the National Disability Insurance Service, NDIS, so people with complaints about that. If you like an office telephone role, and people do, they do like that, you know, you can do this from anywhere in New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland or ACT. So that's a job investigating complaints about the National Disability Insurance Scheme. The fraud analyst required at Kmart. Whoa, now this raises the question, how the hell are you going to commit fraud against Kmart? Well, people make fake receipts. That's what they do. And hi, everybody who's said hello in the comment section. I'll get back to you later on. I'm a bit busy to reply right now, but it's great of you to say Merry Christmas. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate that. So Kmart, people print out false receipts. People steal from Kmart and take things back and demand a refund and get cash for something that they never paid for in the first place. So this is not just Kmart, it's JB Hi-Fi, it's Target, you name it. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be designer label shops. They all have fraud committed against them. So Kmart are seeking a fraud analyst for trends throughout Australia. So you'll be identifying those trends. And that's a great role if you have some retail experience and customer service experience. A really great role for you to have to complement your investigation experience going forward. ProCare are looking for an investigations coordinator in New South Wales. Now, ProCare operate throughout Australia. They're one of the 4 largest investigation agencies in Australia. So they have a job vacancy there for a factual investigations coordinator. Now, you must be able to work in a high pressure, high volume environment. And if you can perform in that, ProCare have got the job for you. So that's the beauty at ProCare. APRA, they've got investigation roles in regulatory compliance going all around the country. They've just added a massive amount of capacity to put on investigators. So if you have your certificate for in government investigations, that's a great time to be applying for these roles. You don't have to be a doctor or a nurse. Get on the website and have a look at it. That's a really great job opportunity. Another beauty that's down in Victoria at the moment, there's a Senior Compliance and Partnership Officer for high-risk industries with the Department of Justice and Community Safety. So you'll be doing things like analysing what's going on, drugs into prisons and courts, that sort of thing. Who's a trained bomber that's about to be released from from prison or whatever, from correctional facility. What's the risk of that person going out into the community? And you'll be liaising with a whole lot of other people in relation to that. So that's a really great job that's currently available down in Victoria. If I just get rid of it. So people, look, it has been an absolutely fantastically busy year, especially over the last 40 weeks of presenting this program. Pat and I and all the other presenters have really enjoyed it, and we're looking forward to operating it again next year. Don't forget, please, if you have a question and you want to get a free coffee mug, right? And I'll post it to you. Here it is. This is what you'll get. That's your coffee mug. We can get the surveillance one. Looks like that. So I'll post it out to you. It's yours. You can walk around the office. These are the most stolen item from investigation agencies in Victoria and in Sydney. So nobody breaks in and steals confidential information in there. Nobody breaks in and steals files or anything like that. This is what people are walking home with because they want one. So if you want one and you want one legally, follow the guide down the bottom of the screen. All you have to do is send me your question. It doesn't matter what your question is. Say, Mike, what's the difference between Certificate 4 in Government Investigation and Certificate 3 in Private Investigation? Videotape that question. Send it to me, 0407 593 881. I will play it on this channel. And when I play it, straight afterwards, I'll post you out a coffee mug, just like I did for Marie. Okay, so doesn't have to, there's no such thing as a dumb question. So ask the question, win a coffee mug. How easy is that? You don't have to do anything. All right, spoil yourself. Been a great year, people. Really enjoyed putting it on. And Jason and I putting on our risk program, we've really enjoyed that too. We'll be coming back next year with some big initiatives with this. We're really looking forward to that. So those initiatives, we'll tell you all about them in the new year. You will enjoy them, especially if you're an enrolled Australian Security Academy student. You really will enjoy that. We're going out for the year now with a favourite way of going out.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
Yes, our mission is complete for the year, people. Have a most enjoyable Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy, and we'll see you back here in 2021. Thanks for watching.